Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another exciting edition of Pages, Pictures, and Panels with the host with the most, Txldian, with my co-host, Roachboy Red.
What's up, guys?
And we have a nice little episode for you guys today. We're going to do some Spider-Man 2099 talk. Yes, that's an actual movie that's coming now. Who's going to play him? We don't know. Is it Oscar Isaac? Is it not? We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into Nexus things and what exactly they are and the ones that we know so far, and maybe even speculate on some ones we're going to see. And then close out with just a little salt-based sprinkle of Multiverse of Madness speculation. So if you guys are with us, buckle in and let's get right into it. Red, let's get with them. What do you got for us?
All right, so starting off today, we're gonna get into some, like you said, some Spider-Man 2099 talk. Uh,
Mhm.
I personally don't know too much about the character. I've experienced him in like a lot of extra media, like the video games, the cartoons. Into the Spider-Verse, I guess, gave us a post-credit scene of him, which speaking on that, I didn't know that post credit scene existed for like a year after I watched Into the Spider Verse. Because I'm pretty sure there's a
Me
mid
neither.
credit and a post credit, and I watched the mid credit, but not the post credit. uh,
I completely missed it as well.
yeah, it's so weird. But we did get confirmation that a live action Spider-Man 2099 project is in pre-production right now by Sony. Uh, Obviously, an obscure spider character like that's probably not going to go to MCU. It's definitely going to be a Sony production. So, uh,
Yeah,
I think it's kind of weird, and I think that it's in pre-production and not production right now because they're kind of going to test the waters to see how people feel about Miguel O'Hara, which is Spider-Man 2099, in Across the Spider-Verse. And if people have a warm reaction to him, that's when they push this movie ahead instead of like whatever next villain movie they're planning after Craven. but I as for who's playing him, well, we don't have any information on the movie literally at all. But I think it would be cool if Oscar Isaac did play him. Like I know he's Moon Knight now, but this is a different universe, and it could work. He voiced him. He's done Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse. He is Poe in Star Wars. He is very tied into like this comic, sci-fi, Disney centric world, and uh, we definitely. I think Moon Knight's going to show us just how much range as an actor he has. He's going to be playing 3 to 4 different characters minimum. It's going to be incredible. I think it would be awesome to see him. Uh, as for villains, I don't know too much villains. I know like he Spider-Man works with Alchemex, the company in this or in that story, but I don't know what that really entails. I think do you remember the Spider-Man Unlimited cartoon?
I do.
Uh I think that was also partially inspired by 2099 and they just couldn't get the rights full-heartedly, so they made Unlimited. And I think it'd be cool if they did like some of the High Evolutionary was the villain of that show actually. He that's who was making all like the Animen. And I think it'd be cool to see that or maybe like even the one of the first storylines in Spider-Man Unlimited was the Venom and Carnage storyline, and they got complete redesigns, and it was insane. They didn't have hosts; they were just lone symbiotes, and something like that would even be cool in the Sony verse, because then like you cut to the future and we see what Venom's doing in 2099, and then we cut back to Venom 3, and we're like, huh, how the fuck does it go from this to that? And I think that would be a really cool thing. And then it would give Sony a lot of content to fill the middle ground in that timeline throughout the upcoming years of their comic movies.
Absolutely. I think they're literally looking past it on this whole Sony Spideyverse thing. We're going to see a lot more iterations. I'm going to call it here first on Pages, Pictures, and Panels. I think we will, in the next 5 years, see also Spider-Man Noir. I think we're going to see that as well.
Hopefully
I
played by
definitely
Nicolas
could see that
Cage.
happen. It's going to happen, dude.
Yeah, I would love it. I think with this new Across the Spider-Verse movie, there's a reason it's a two-parter. And I think our big cliffhanger is going to be the introduction of some of the live action characters into the cartoon universe. And I think it would be awesome if we got both routes of that. We get some cartoon characters in live action. Hell, maybe even Who Framed Roger Rabbit them and keep them a cartoon in the real world. Uh, Especially would work for like a character like Spider-Ham or something, or one of the more animated feeling characters. And I would love to see that, but only time will tell. I know we've got a few more Sony projects before that would even be in the realm of possibility for release. We got what, Morbius, Craven, Venom 3, God knows whatever Spider titles we're going to be getting. Uh, so
Yep.
it's probably a good 5 to 10 years out, maybe even. But knowing me, I will be here waiting when that happens.
As will I.
Uh, from there, actually, I do want to drop a little thing. Everyone I saw on the internet the past couple of weeks, everyone has been talking about how Kevin Feige said there's going to be no more Avengers films, and it's definitely the quote that's always with the articles and stuff is definitely only half of a sentence even. Uh, the every time we always just see that it says that this is the or that Endgame was the final Avengers movie. No, what Kevin Feige said in the interview was that there's not going to be an Avengers movie in Phase 4, and I mean that kind of makes sense. After Infinity War and Endgame, there is no Avengers. The mastheads of the team are all gone. Thor's out fucking gallivanting in space with the Guardians. Stark is dead, and Tony is fucking Joe Biden right now. Or yeah, and Steve is Joe Biden right now. Uh, so there
Yeah.
is there
Tito's
is no
dead.
Avengers without them.
And
uh,
Earth is just absent.
yeah, exactly. And like none of these characters that we've had are around anymore. The Avengers we have are Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, which I don't care what anyone says. Doctor Strange is not an Avenger. I hate the idea that he's an Avenger because of the Infinity War Endgame involvement. But
Yeah.
if the guard
He makes it clear that he's not an Avenger. He tells Tony he's not. He's like, contrary to popular belief, like everyone else around you, I don't work for you.
exactly, and like that's it always bothered me because like, are you saying that every Wakandan is an Avenger? Are you saying that all the Guardians are Avengers? Like, no, these are standalone people helping you because it's their planet.
Avengers Assemble line was pure fan service, dude.
Yeah, for
That's
sure. Uh, but yeah, we don't really have any Avengers right now, so I understand them breaking off and saying that there's not going to be an Avengers film and not doing one in this arc. I think before we get an Avengers film, we're going to need Captain America 4. We're going to need Sam to be in that leadership Captain America role before we can see him as the leader of a team. The whole show of Falcon and Winter Soldier was built up to him being worthy of being Captain America, but he's worthy of holding the shield now, but he still doesn't have the knowledge to properly wield it. And that's what Cap 4 should be for, so that we have a good Captain America for Avengers 5. 5? Avengers 5.
Yeah. Yep. I think the future of the Avengers series looks bright. I think we might actually get Young Avengers first.
And that's what I
I
would
think they're
love.
gonna get.
I'd love it, bro. Kate Bishop alone, she was such a breath of fresh air. I always say it about her being, or her compared to her comic counterpart, and she could carry a Young Avengers movie by herself, let alone like all the different people that she would have to like bounce off of. We haven't even met the new actress who's going to be playing Cassie Lang, but her and Kate Bishop are pretty close in the comics, so that's just another relationship that we haven't even seen that could be fantastic. And I don't think a lot of the Young Avengers kids are really good for the role yet. I know like Billy and Tommy, the twins, we saw them at young ages, so they'll get recast for the Young Avengers team and stuff. And for all we know, those kids are going to be recast as teenagers in Multiverse of Madness. Uh, but aside from that, like there isn't really anyone that we care about besides Kate Bishop and the Young Avengers. We just know them. Uh, and I think they should. probably just ride off of that. Elijah Bradley, Isaiah Bradley's grandson, is the starting leader of the Young Avengers in the comics, and then Kate Bishop shows up. Her and Cassie Lang's stature show up, and they pretty much just like take over, and not like in a violent, aggressive way. They're just better. They are smarter. They are more tactical. Kate Bishop was trained by Hawkeye at that point. That was like right after she got the Hawkeye training, and so she was definitely more capable than any of these kids who just like stole Cap's shield, which is what Patriot did. Uh, and I'm pretty sure we find out something about him. Like once we find out that he's Isaiah Bradley's grandson, we find out that he was genetic, or the super soldier serum was passed down. Originally, it was something along the lines of him like shooting up super soldier serum essentially to have his powers. But and for all I know, I don't remember the story exactly with him. It might be backwards. We might have thought he was superpowered because of Isaiah Bradley, and then we find out that he was shooting up to get the powers. I That sounds more likely, honestly, to me. But I don't remember. It's been years since I read the Young Avengers titles. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, and that we might not be getting any more Avengers movies in Phase 4. And like you said, for all we know, we might not get them ever, but we will be getting iterations of the team. There's no way. We have things like the Thunderbolts, which is the Thunderbolt Ross led essentially version of reformed villains. It's Suicide Squad for Marvel. Uh, we have Dark Avengers, the Norman Osborn or sometimes U.S. Agent run Avengers team. It's kind of Thunderboltsy as well. We have the Young Avengers. We have cosmic teams like the Guardians. We have the Defenders. The Illuminati are coming. The Fantastic Four. Like we might not have Avengers
Right.
movies coming directly, but we have. It's gonna feel the same as an Avengers filled universe because we're getting new families, new teams. The X-Men are coming, man, and
Yeah.
I I've seen on YouTube and stuff and a lot of news articles and stuff. It's just people milking that there's no more Avengers films line, and that's definitely not the case. Like there's no end to these characters and their stories, and Kevin Feige knows this, and he loves these characters like we love these characters, and that's why he does such a good job preserving their legacy through these movies. Uh, but
Yeah.
that actually got a little more long-winded than I expected, but I just figured wanted to clarify that because there's been more and more content on it. But from there, I guess we should dive into I almost said WandaVision, Multiverse of Madness. Okay, so uh, we know that Nexus events exist in the MCU, and we know that Nexus beings exist in the Marvel comics. But
Absolutely.
throughout WandaVision, Loki, Doctor Strange, all of these movies, it has gotten it's gotten more confusing than the term variant. And so I figure this segment we're going to break down what they are and how that's going to play into like Wanda as the main Nexus being from the comics that we ever hear about. Uh, so without further ado, I guess Nexus beings in the comics are individuals, entities. Like it's not always like a human. It's could be like the Phoenix Force essentially is technically like a Nexus. Uh, but they're capable of altering probability and or the future, altering the natural laws of order in the universe. And
Huh.
they're necessary. They're technically all necessary to the composite of the multiverse, and that's why they are universal constants. They act as keystones through the multiverse. Some examples of them are Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, Jean Grey, the Phoenix, Nathaniel Richards, future Kang the Conqueror, Franklin Richards, son of Reed and Sue, and even Merlin, the great wizard from Arthurian legend, which it's even thought that he was the original Sorcerer Supreme as well. Or not the
Huh.
original Sorcerer Supreme, but the Sorcerer Supreme of of his day and age. And I mean, it makes sense. He's like the most well-known historical wizard of all time. Like it definitely would make sense for him to be. the Sorcerer Supreme, and I'm sure at this point it's been a few years since I read about that, so I'm sure it's been confirmed that he has or was at this point. But so this means that these people are universal constants, and there's normally only one version of that character throughout the multiverse, and like throughout every universe, it is that person. It's not a variant of that person. It is that person. And so aside from weird stipulations, also I forget to mention like Kang, there's multiple versions of Kang throughout the multiverse and throughout the timelines, but that's because he has jacked up the timeline and made time what normally in DC are referred to as time revenants. He's made them of
Right.
himself throughout timelines. Like we have Iron Lad, Ramatut, him, Immortus. There's a few more throughout, but there's so many different
So
Kangs, and they're all Nexus beings technically because Kang does this in every universe. Like there is a slew of different variations of Kang thrown throughout the timelines.
this brings up a question about Multiverse of Madness and the trailer. So what if the Wanda that we're looking at, what if we're not looking at a variant of Wanda because she's a Nexus being? What if we're looking at time travel?
I did think of that because she's not wearing any like the outfits from WandaVision, but they are in the Westview house. And being in the Westview house would imply that the hex is still up. Uh,
Right, which that only happened once. So they have to be going back, right?
Either that or
Unless-
Wanda, it's potentially a different universe within the multiverse where she never took down the hex, or maybe she expanded it fully. Like, what if that's the House of M universe we see?
That's like that's the thing. Like differentiate the difference between a timeline and a universe would be necessary because maybe it's the same universe but another timeline. You know what I
Uh,
mean? What if it's still the same universe but it's another timeline?
that's always such a confusing thing to me. And like with Endgame and Infinity War's very specific laws of time travel, it kind of made that hard for us to understand. And things like Dragon Ball Super did the same thing. In Dragon Ball Z, we thought Future Trunks was from the future. Uh, no, he's from a parallel timeline that's part of technically it's part of Universe 10, not Universe 7, which is Goku and their universe. So like
Yeah,
I just think the more you get into stuff like that, the more muddied it gets in Marvel Comics over the years. It is just such the timeline is a mangled mess. It's not as bad as DC's, but yeah, like I think not putting terms to it helps a lot. The comics never really put terms to these things, but just in the past 2 years alone, the MCU has given us Nexus events, absolute points, all this type of stuff. And I think those create conflicts within the timeline themselves. And like, honestly, along the idea of Christine Palmer, they established in What If that it's an absolute point that she dies in every universe. Well, she's alive in Doctor Strange 1, so they pretty much confirmed that she's going to die in the sequel. And from what I gather, there's a variant of her who's working alongside the Illuminati. So, like, how does that work? Do they figure out a way to stop that one from dying? All these new terms bring
what
up. Wait, what's up?
what if she doesn't die in this movie though? What if she dies in Doctor Strange 3?
That'd be cool. And it would be wild that there would just be that overarching sense of danger that something is going to happen to her the whole movie. Kind of like how we felt in
Yeah,
Amazing Spider-Man 1 with Gwen Stacy. Uh, every time that she was on screen, or anytime anything dangerous was happening to her, you were like, man, is this the moment that Gwen dies? And they let you just ride that out for an entire movie until they kill her at the end of the second one. And I think that would be it adds a lot of gravity and adds a lot of tension to their relationship too. It lets you know it's on a timer, but they don't yet know it's on one. And that it definitely I think would be a good idea. But so if these Nexus beings from the comics are universal constants, there's only one version of each of them throughout the multiverse. That begs the question for me, uh why how are there two Wandas in the trailer? So I'm thinking that they're gonna be restructuring the term Nexus being more so uh Nexus events, I feel, are a completely unrelated thing, and Loki kind of made us think just because of the word Nexus that they were linked to each other. But I'll get into Nexus events after I finish with Nexus beings. But so pretty much in the MCU, I imagine them establishing the new rule of Nexus beings be that there are different versions throughout the multiverse, but they are always destined to end up in the same role. Like in the MCU, every universe within the multiverse, Wanda Maximoff is destined to become the Scarlet Witch. She's destined to lose Vision, or her and Vision are destined to lose each other. Because even in the What If episode with zombies, it was the opposite. Vision lost her and was doing everything in his power to try to fucking preserve her and their relationship. And I think stuff like that is how they're going to explain away Nexus beings so you don't have to flat out be like, well, if Wanda's a Nexus, then the Wanda from WandaVision in the movies has had the same past as Wanda from the comics, which then doesn't make
Right.
sense because Wanda from the comics is like tied to Magneto a lot heavier and has been part of the X-Men and stuff. There's no X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I think they needed a way to explain away that version of what a Nexus being is. And
Right.
I personally think it works well. And some of these self-aware characters, like Kang being a Nexus being, he could very well know, like being from the future, that these events are going to unfold a certain way, and there's nothing he can do about it. And it's going to be nice to see like the dynamic of these characters trying to either grow into that role or steer away from that. Like Kang, I imagine like Iron Lad variant, Nathaniel Richards. I imagine him trying to do everything in his power to avoid ending up the Kang the Conqueror that we all know and tolerate from the comics.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah, I definitely think there's not really much information on Nexus beings, so this is a lot of speculation, and we don't even really have a lot of speculation because Nexus beings just started being talked about in WandaVision, and most of them were dropped through the weird commercials that she was putting the subliminal messages into. And
Right.
so I think for that, we really do, yet again, still just have to sit and wait in the fucking hand of Kevin Feige until May 6th, hopefully May 6th, when Doctor Strange releases. And I. I'm relatively confident that this is probably how they will explain it because in WandaVision, when Agatha is talking to Wanda about who she is and who she's destined to be, it's
Yeah.
it seemed like in the flashbacks at the Hydra facility when she saw that when Wanda saw the vision of Scarlet Witch come down to her, that could be the Wanda that we see going around the multiverse in Doctor Strange. And
Yeah.
essentially that creates a loop and a paradox. That Wanda from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness comes through the multiverse, sees or introduces herself, quote unquote, to this Wanda. Then this Wanda does all the stuff at Westview and grows into the Scarlet Witch that then is going to do this to her, and it creates like a paradoxical time loop. And it is confusing, but at the same time, that makes it a universal constant. That is on paper, that's what a Nexus being is. And I think they explained it away so that there doesn't have to just be one history for this character. We can have multiple. And it always bothered me that Wanda was a universal constant and stuff because in the Ultimate Comics, her and Pietro have an incestuous relationship. So by that standard, every Wanda wants to fuck her brother. And yeah, and I've never been cool with that. The Ultimates did a lot of weird things, the Ultimate Universe, and that is by far one of my least favorite. And the fact that in the Ultimate Universe, Wolverine ends up their biological father, we find out. Yeah. So like they've been muddying the term Nexus being for years. The Ultimate Universe is definitely the biggest example of that. But aside from that, I guess we should talk about. Nexus points or Nexus events. Uh, they are everyone. It's assumed that they're always tied to Nexus beings and stuff, but and I mean they might be in the MCU. We don't know what Nexus events are really at all because they were introduced as a term in the MCU. Loki is the first place to debut that. But so uh, a Nexus event is essentially when someone acts again or acts on their free will and changes the course of a timeline, which ultimately ends up creating a branch timeline or leads to the destruction of the timeline through like natural means, like how we see the end of Pompeii when Loki and Mobius create the variation in the timeline there. Uh, so it's that's pretty much all we know. We've seen it with Loki. He uh, created a Nexus event when he stole the Tesseract at the Battle of New York in Endgame and escaped. And we saw it with Sylvie creating Nexus events everywhere and then dodging through the destruction of the timeline. And then her and Loki kissing or almost kissing. That was a Nexus event, which that makes sense. It's two paradoxical variations of the same person. Like that is definitely against the natural order. It's not just incest or it's not just narcissism. That is actually against the laws of the universe, not just the laws of morality and stuff. But it fits. It fits with Loki. He's a weird guy. He's
Yeah,
definitely one of the more eccentric characters in the MCU, and I mean, I like the idea. It was kind of cool, but and now with the TVA being unraveled and Kang, God knows where or what variation of Kang, like we saw the TVA get rewritten with Kang the Conqueror as the masthead instead of the Timekeepers. Uh,
right.
we don't know what state the world is in, so we don't know if we are going to have this new TVA taking out and pruning Nexus events so that we don't see too many more of them. But my bet or my biggest bet is that Multiverse of Madness, they give us at least one to two more Nexus events that like just that they acknowledge as such. I don't think that's a term we're just gonna get and get thrown away. I think Loki is gonna be in Multiverse of Madness, maybe not a big part, but if not Tom Hiddleston, Sylvie has to be in it. She is who did this at the end of the day. In Loki, they say like everything happens at the same time. All points of time happen at once. It's a relative term, and I think since that implies that at this citadel, it's at the beginning, the end, the middle, every point of time. She is who cracked the multiverse. I don't believe that it's exclusively Doctor Strange. I think he just ruined it once it was already unstable from her doing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like you said, like their inclusion is almost like needed. We gotta have it. It has to sew up all ends. And I feel like Loki and WandaVision are both way too monumental shows to not tie into such a monumental event as Multiverse of Madness. And we already have confirmation of the Westview house and what seems to be Westview Wanda. So for Sylvie and or Loki not to show up just wouldn't make much sense. So again, I'll go out on that limb with you. They almost have to appear.
For sure. And other than that, I think that pretty much covers all of the information I personally have on Nexus beings and Nexus events. In a nutshell, I guess I'll give a quick recap. Nexus beings are universal keystones for the multiverse's stability. They are mandatory and they are a universal constant. There is originally essentially one version of that character throughout the multiverse. Nowadays in the MCU, it appears that they're going the route of they are destined to end up the same character, not that they are the same character. And
Right.
as for Nexus events and Nexus points, that's stuff like the Battle of New York. If you're doing things that are out of the natural flow of time, it's going to create a branch timeline similar to getting the Infinity Stones in Endgame.
Right.
They just rectified and closed those branch timelines. But
Makes sense.
for all we know, you can't close those timelines, though. We just saw the happy ending with Steve sitting on the bench, but we don't know how that journey went for him.
Right.
But
Very true. Hopefully,
other than that,
what
I that's about all I wanted to talk about Multiverse of Madness today. I'm sure it's getting closer and closer. I'm sure we're going to be getting more leaks and stuff. So we will be back with more information on this topic for sure. And leading up to it, I definitely have a few topics that I want to discuss in other episodes. They just I feel would be too meaty for this one. But
absolutely.
so closing thoughts. Anything you want to talk about Multiverse, Spider-Man 2099, or hell, even fucking the future of the Avengers movies?
Honestly, just quick 3 bullet points to sum up for me. Spider-Man 2099. It's not that I'm not interested. I'm not the biggest fan of the character, but I am spider-centric, so bring it on. I'm sure it'll tie in somehow because this big continuity thing is sweeping across Hollywood right now. We're even about to see a fucking Blue's Clues style No Way Home type movie.
I
So I
saw
feel like,
that.
bro, but like continuity is such a big thing nowadays. So like it's gonna tie in. So for Spider 29, I guess I'm open to it. When it comes to Nexus beings, I'm very curious on how they're going to explain the Wanda thing. I'm a bit privy to them as well, just through conversations with you and our special correspondent Phil. And I don't know, man. Like it's just I need to have more information given to me. I need to get to this movie. I'm just very curious on how that's going to pan out. So that's my thing on Nexus beings. And last but not least, Multiverse of Madness. It's never going to change for me. I am way beyond excited. I could piss on myself if it was legal. It's not, so I won't. But I think that this movie is going to shatter all realities, no pun intended, because this shit is going to fuck my shit up. I'm not even going to lie. Every leak I see overexcites me to the point of high anxiety. Every trailer that they drop rules my life for the next 72 to 96 hours. I can't lie to anybody here. I got to keep it tall. Multiverse of Madness is going to fuck your shit up. And those are my closing thoughts on the 3 bullet points from this episode.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better myself. Dude, the night that the Doctor Strange trailer dropped, the Super Bowl night, I ended up doing like notes and research and stuff all night. I ended up looking at my clock, it's 5:30 in the morning. So like this movie has got me losing sleep now. I am so
Yeah.
excited. Can't wait to see it. May 6th. Check out your local theater. Hopefully they're still open so we can all enjoy Multiverse of Madness together. Other than that, uh, we have what do we have? We have a Roach Boys Comic Corner coming up this later this week on Wanda Maximoff herself, the Scarlet Witch. And aside from that, in preparation for Doctor Strange, you can get a Strange inspired sticker, Fractured Reality, on the Studio 5 Star Etsy store. Link is in the description. You can follow them on Instagram at Studio 5 Star Official. Other than that, you can follow me on Instagram at Roach the Boy Wonder. You can get updates on this channel. You can get some pretty cool art, and you can even hit me up for all your art commission needs. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified when we drop a new video. Definitely tell your friends about us. We are more than halfway there to our goal of 50 subscribers so we can start bringing live content to you guys. So definitely spread the word. Stay tuned for future updates, and that's about it.
And on that note, this is Pages, Pictures, and Panels. I am your host, till the end, with my co-host, Roachboy Red.
And you guys have a marvelous day.
Good night, good night, good night.